Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the technology that is literally defining our era, but we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. So to kick things off, I want you to imagine something for me. Just picture this. You hire a co-pilot for your airplane, and this co-pilot, they speak absolutely flawlessly. They know every single flight manual ever written backward and forward. I mean, they can quote emergency procedures for 200 different airlines entirely from memory. But here's the catch. They have never, ever actually been on a real plane.
So really think about that for a second. Would you trust your life to someone who has never actually felt turbulence rattling the cabin? Someone who has never actually looked out and seen the real horizon from 30,000 feet up? I'm guessing your instinct is a pretty hard no way. Well, that co-pilot, that is exactly what artificial intelligence is today. It's not some sci-fi villain, and it's definitely not a flawless magical assistant. It's actually something far more fascinating. So today, we're going to figure out what AI is at its deepest core. And to do that, we really need to understand the fundamental limits of what it actually knows.
Section 1, the map versus the territory. Let's dive right into the concept that's going to totally anchor how we view this tech. There's this brilliant quote by the philosopher Alfred Korzybski, and it goes like this. The map is not the territory. It sounds super simple, right? But the implications are massive. Think about it like this. You could be holding a map of Mexico City right in your hand. It could literally be the most perfectly detailed map in the world. We're talking every street, every subway line, even real-time traffic updates. But that piece of paper, or that screen, it doesn't smell like fresh street tacos. It doesn't feel the intense July heat. The map just describes the territory. The territory itself is the actual physical experience. AI, right now, is basically an entity that has memorized every map in human history, but it has never once stepped foot on the actual territory.
And that reality pretty much shatters all those sci-fi myths we see in movies. When we talk about tools like ChatGPT, or Claude, or Gemini, what we're actually talking about is a large language model, or an LLM. It is not a sentient being. Fundamentally, it's a system that predicts the most probable next word in a sequence, and it does that based on just vast amounts of text data. It's an ultra-advanced, statistically driven text predictor. That's it.
So let's look at how this actually plays out in practice. When you ask an AI, what is the capital of France? It doesn't know it's Paris the way you or I know it. You might know it because, I don't know, maybe you visited the Eiffel Tower or you saw a movie that made you feel a certain way. The AI answers Paris because it has processed millions of texts, found massive statistical correlations, and determined that the word Paris is just the most probable sequence of tokens to follow the phrase capital of France. It is literally pure math and statistics masquerading as comprehension. This brilliantly illustrates the whole gap between maps and territories. If you were to ask an AI what happens if you push a glass cup off the edge of a table, it's going to give you this flawless explanation of Newtonian physics, gravity, friction coefficients, the whole shebang. It has the perfect map of physics. But a 6-year-old child, they just know the cup is going to break because they've dropped things before, they've heard the shatter, they've probably been scolded for it. They possess what we call embodied knowledge, actual physical experience. An AI completely lacks this.
Section 2, why does AI hallucinate? So what actually happens when a system with zero physical experience tries to navigate the real world?
Well, the story of lawyer Stephen Schwartz is the absolute perfect example of the real-world consequences of relying strictly on a map. Back in 2023, he submitted a legal brief to a federal court. It was packed with past judicial cases, names, docket numbers, everything. The problem? They were entirely fake. ChatGPT had completely invented them. You see, when a human doesn't know something, we actually feel a cognitive void, like a physical discomfort of doubt. AI doesn't feel doubt. When probabilities are low, it just does exactly what it's programmed to do. It generates the most plausible-sounding text, even if it is completely fictional.
So the absolutely crucial point here is knowing how to spot these failures. There are 3 main types of hallucinations you really need to watch out for. First up is confident fabrication. This is exactly like our lawyer's case. The AI invents facts, names, or quotes with absolute unwavering certainty. Second, we have internal contradiction. Because AI processes information in limited context windows, it might say one thing in paragraph 3 and then totally contradict itself by paragraph 10. It basically forgets what it just said. And third, the frozen update. The AI's map has a print date. If its training data stopped last year, it's going to confidently give you outdated information, totally oblivious to the fact that the territory has changed.
Let's just pause on this question for a second.
If I teach you what pain is using only words like describing tissue damage and nociceptors and all that, do you really understand pain? If you've never actually stubbed your toe or had a massive headache, the answer is no. Language can describe an experience, sure, but it cannot be the experience. AI has the largest dictionary in the universe, but words just cannot substitute physical reality. And that right there is the very root of the hallucination problem. Scientists are completely aware of this limitation, which brings us to Section 3, the push for embodied AI. This leads us to a really revolutionary concept. Embodied AI refers to artificial intelligence that is integrated into physical bodies, allowing the system to actually learn through real-world interaction and physical consequences. For example, Google DeepMind has this robot called RT2. It actually has a language model connected directly to its movement. So if you tell it to clean up a spill, it has to physically look at the table, infer which object could act as a rag, and then physically grab it. It is actually touching the territory. And honestly, the pace of this leap is just staggering. In 2024, OpenAI invested in the Figure O2 humanoid, a robot that can naturally converse with you while physically reasoning about, say, handing you an apple. By January 2025, Google DeepMind introduced Gemini Robotics, where robots literally learn physical tasks just by watching humans do them on video. And right now, today, Tesla's Optimus is learning by processing millions of hours of real-world video from its cars and factories. We are basically taking the world's most powerful language models and finally putting them behind the steering wheel.
But I should point out, this transition is anything but easy. Researchers are facing a massive hurdle right now called the sim-to-real gap. Obviously, it's safer and cheaper to train robots in virtual simulations, but a simulation cannot perfectly replicate, say, the micro vibrations of a glass cup or the exact glare of sunlight hitting a table. The real world's physics are infinitely complex. So when a robot moves from a clean, perfect simulation into messy reality, it often fails. We are still very much actively trying to bridge that gap between the map and the territory.
So until we have perfect embodied robots walking around making us coffee, how should you and I actually be using this technology right now? Section 4, Practical Guide to AI. I really want you to burn this golden rule into your memory. AI is extraordinary when the territory is already on the map. It is dangerous when the territory lies outside of it. This is basically your ultimate filter for knowing when to trust your AI tools and when you absolutely, desperately need to verify things yourself. Here's exactly how to apply that rule every single day. Think of it as having a green zone and a red zone. In the green zone, trust the AI. This includes things like text transformation, standard coding, brainstorming, writing first drafts. Why? Because the territory here is the text itself, which the AI has right in front of its digital face. It can't really hallucinate what it already possesses. But the red zone? You absolutely must take the wheel. We're talking recent facts, medical decisions, legal advice, future predictions. AI has read text about medicine, sure, but a human doctor has actual embodied experience. AI cannot extrapolate the future because, well, the future isn't on any map yet. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this one thought. You are the pilot. AI is your incredibly brilliant textbook-trained co-pilot. It knows the manuals, it knows the procedures, and it is a massive, massive asset to have in the cockpit with you. But as the person in charge, it's your responsibility to recognize when the storm clouds rolling in are something your co-pilot has never actually experienced. We're all essentially the ground controllers for AI's first flights into the real world. So use it, learn from it, but whatever you do, never forget to look out the window yourself. Thank you so much for joining me to understand the core of this incredible technology, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.